Hundred strong. What's that word, family? Hey, man, check this out. It's your homeboy Low from the Go, and I'm back with another episode of Fast and Furious interviews brought to you by Members Only Podcast. I am Big M.O.P. On today's show, ladies and gentlemen, we got a very special guest in the building.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your boy B.Todd, the host of Talks with Todd, and I'm also part of two other podcasts. One is from the Rise and Grind Morning Show, which comes on at 9:15 from Monday through Friday. I'm on the episode every Wednesday, and I'm also a part of another podcast called Respectfully Speaking, which is every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. So I jumped in this game because I was going through a lot of stress. My kid's mother, she was just taking me back and forth to court, playing games with the kids, lie on the kids, have the kids lying for her, whatever have you. And it was just causing me a lot of stress until I listened to somebody else's podcast that I used to be cool with. And they were pretty much being real raw about their story or whatever they went through. I let my wife listen to an episode. She said, that's something you should definitely look into, especially since you don't have any anger outlet right now. And I just kind of took off from there. I started a podcast with my cousin called Uncomfortable Convos back in 2021, I believe. And, we kicked that off. This is when the pandemic was kind of going on. Started that off. That ended. And then I started doing things solo. And, from there, I just kind of worked my way up. That's how I ended up getting asked to be a part of different podcasts or whatnot.
And did you grow up in a two-parent household in Detroit?
No, I didn't. Single parent household. My father wasn't around growing up, so it was just my mother raising me. I mean, I had older cousins, OGs around or whatever, but my father was not around when I was growing up. And by the time he did come around, I was so just jaded on him for not being around. I didn't really want to rock with him until I got older, and also heard both sides of the story. So that's where I ended up growing up in a single parent household and keeping it that way. From what I've seen, he's a hustler. He knows how to build a car from the ground up. Anything about a car, he know it, and if he don't know it, somebody else, he could point you in the right direction. He's a hustler though. He will make a hustle out of whatever you could think of, really, But he's also a ladies' man, so I think that's one of the downsides of the qualities that I obtained from him. So he's pretty much a ladies' man and a hustler from what I've seen and from what I know. I believe it messed me up for a minute, but it also motivated me. It motivated me more than it messed me up, honestly, because of him. I knew exactly what I didn't want to be for my kids. So he actually let me see everything that I didn't want to be. So it helped in the long run. At third grade, I was a good student. I caught on pretty fast. Yeah, I was good. I was one of those hands-on kids though. Like, you can't just do something and not show me how it's done. And now, if you show me how it's done, you gotta let me do it on my own. Don't keep holding my hand. You gotta let me do it, and then we gonna be good. So that's what type of kid I was around that time. Third grade to eighth grade. Eighth grade, I was too concerned with being popular, too concerned with wearing the latest fashion, just being an ignorant kid like anybody else, really, that's getting caught up in the what's popular and what's not whole phase. You know how that go, being a follower. It's a big difference. I wasn't as focused. I was focused in third grade. I wasn't focused by the time I got to eighth grade because I didn't have a certain lane to be in. Like, I had my friends that hustled and I had my friends that didn't hustle. So it was like, how most of the time you grow up, you got a crew. I was the person, I had my key people, but for the most part, I could hang with anybody. So I didn't really have like a lane to be in. I wasn't street enough to hang around the drug dealers all day, but I didn't play sports enough to be with the athletes all day either. You know what I'm saying? I did just enough on every angle because I wasn't in love with nothing back then like that, enough to really want to keep, trying to stick with the same old, same old. I always was big on being versatile. So I think what really messed me up in school was just trying to find the lane when when I wasn't even realizing I was in my own lane. I was too ignorant to see that then. So with me trying to figure out who I am and also trying to find out what works for me as far as women was concerned, that did throw me off a lot. High school was the same thing. It just was worse actually because with high school, I not only did I feel as though I had to be up on the latest fashion, mess with the baddest girls, I also had to keep up with what was like dope with shows or movies or whatever, music. But I was already a music head, so that wasn't that bad. But it was just everything else as a collective. It was like I was always trying to keep up with something. So I lacked again with focus because of me following everything else that I thought I was supposed to be following. This gangs in Detroit, I don't think as prevalent as it is in Chicago, but it's definitely gangs here. It's not what you would see. Like what I'm not gonna say it's not what you would see. It just you gotta know your areas. In certain areas, you know definitely it's some gang activity going on or whatever. But other than that, it's not as bad though as everywhere else. Well, I ain't even gonna say it's everywhere else, but it's not as bad as it is in Chicago. It's not as bad as it is in Cali, but it's up there. You know what I mean? Started off with just selling weed, like before weed was legal, and I didn't really have the patience for that. What I didn't, and I think what I didn't have the patience for, why I didn't stay in it, was the people that always didn't have enough money to get what they was asking for. I didn't have the patience to deal with that aspect of selling drugs, or not drugs, but weed. So I didn't care for that. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought it was easier to pimp. Um, and but I realized the downside to even trying to pimp somebody. That the only downside to that is that money is slower. So with selling weed, it's oh yeah, you're gonna get fast money, but you're gonna get these people that always gotta say, I'll pay you back, I'll pay you back. With pimping, you gotta pay up straight up. You know what I'm saying? You gotta pay that money or you're not getting none. Right? But that's slower money. So yeah, I really had to pick one. Tried to go with pimping, but it didn't last long. That was short lived. I ain't even gonna lie, bro. Like I was joking around with one of my homegirls, and as I kept joking, I started seeing that she was kind of like okay with it. So I was like, oh well, I'm about to run with it. Let's see, let's see how much money we can make off of you then. You know, since you took me serious, let's roll. It started off as a joke. Once I saw I was good with my words to even talk somebody into doing something like that, I was in heaven kind of because I was like, damn, I get a girl to sell her body and give me some money. All right, bet. But obviously that was when I was younger, um, and definitely immature. But once I saw that I had that gift, that's when I kind of like really went crazy when it came down to the women.
Right. Pimping in Detroit, man, that's serious business though. Did you have to take her to a stroll? Did you ever meet any other pimps, somebody to mentor you?
No, no, I didn't do it. This was all like I said. It started from a joke. Started from a joke, and it ended up being serious. And I was able to get away with it with only two girls. And once that well dried up, I was just like, okay, can't do this. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, all right, it's time to just go ahead, get a job, find a little side hustle, and go on from there. I'm like, shit, you can make some money. You just got to be willing to go out there and get it. And that's how that conversation started.
And why did you stop?
Well, I forgot what happened with the first girl. Honest. Oh, the first girl moved. The second girl started feeling bad for what she was doing. So I wasn't about to, try to force nobody to do nothing. They was just, she said to me, I guess her problem was, you know, being out there doing stuff like that, you never know what somebody else is into that you wouldn't be down for. She said, I would have been cool with doing this had they stuck with basic things. She said, some of these dudes out here is too weird and they want all this extra stuff that I'm not willing to do for no dollar amount, and just left it alone. At that point, I think I was just working at a few jobs. So when I worked at who was I working at? I was working at a restaurant. Then I picked up another job at a store. So I was making decent money between both jobs combined. So I was cool with that. You know, I was making some good money then. Then I lost one job because I kind of checked out on the owner, and I got fired the same day, but just not while I was at work. It was like I'm gonna let him finish his shift and then I'm gonna fire him type shit. But then like after that, I was kind of mad because there was my extra money that I didn't have to worry about. Uh, after that job happened, I ended up looking for a job, and I ended up getting connected to a job at the plant, and I quit the other job. So that was my main money. That was my main source of money when I was working at the plant. Plus, I started a side hustle while I was in there. That helped out a lot too. So yeah, ever since then, up until obviously I don't work there no more, but up until that point, that was a pivotal moment in my life too, because I was up there for 9 years. You know what I'm saying? So when you somewhere for 9 years, you pretty much family. So I built connections with a lot of people and things of that nature. So everything was cool. Everything was copacetic. Everybody was, I mean, there was issues here and there, but other than that, I was able to survive and provide for my family. So that's all I cared about. Detroit has come up a lot, and yeah, there's it's hoods everywhere that look kind of bold, but when you when you look at the main part of Detroit, what we're known for a lot of, not not outside of being the Motor City. At one point, this was the place to be, and that's what I see Detroit turning back into the place to be. When it come down to music, movies, everybody's coming here. When people started traveling to come here, that's when I knew, okay, Detroit making the come up. And like I said, it's hoods everywhere. No matter where you go, it just the longest the main part, longest the main attraction is not hood, is better. I'm not gonna lie. Like it, downtown used to be dangerous. You couldn't go downtown and enjoy yourself without something happening. Either you was getting into a fight or it was gonna turn into a shootout, if not both. You couldn't go. At one point, it was not, and I was down there. I knew it wasn't safe, and I was still going down there. That's how ignorant I used to be. So, now it's like you see some of everybody downtown. It's not even just us. It's blacks, Asians, uh, Hispanic, everybody, white. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is mixing, mingling in that spot that used to be so dangerous, maybe 15, 20 years ago. So it's definitely come up. A lot of different areas that was bad started to come up. People started buying up property, fixing up the hood, kind of, sort of. But it's still some areas that's bold. Trust me. It's still some areas that's bold, and it's probably never going to change. Yeah. I went to jail because I didn't give my ex-wife half of my 401. Now, my ex-wife and I did not sign a prenup, but I was under the I was under the influence of, if we haven't been married for 10 years, she can't get half of my money no way, right? And when I talked to my lawyer about how can she get that if we ain't been married that long, he was like, she could still get it because of where you got married at. So we're from Detroit, but we got married in Ohio. They go by different things. So when she took me to court uh, during our divorce, that's what the judge kind of threw back at me. Plus, she tried to throw in there infidelity, and I guess the judge felt like she should make an example out of me by making me give up half of my 401. Now, I never had any intentions on giving her my money. So I said, okay, I'm gonna agree to it because we didn't sign a prenup. I should have did that, and that way she wouldn't have been able to get it. Cool, but I'm still not giving it to her, not all in one lump sum. So the judge found out I had the money and just said, forget what you was talking about, basically, and sent me to jail for. It was supposed to be for 10 days. She found out I had the money and ended up sending me for 90 days. But I only served 42 days in jail and finished out the rest of my sentence on house arrest. To be honest with you, it was eye opening for me. It was funny. It was the first place I was able to sit down and think and realize how I had to take accountability for my actions. Like it was a lot going on before I went to jail, and I was for once I was able to sit down and breathe and think clearly. And I came to the realization that all the crap that I was going through, like even up to me going to jail, it was my fault. So I couldn't blame nobody but myself. So jail, I can honestly say, from my experience, jail was good for me because it made me grow up. Honestly, um, nothing crazy really happened in jail like that. Like I said, I saw some funny situations or whatever, but for the most part, it wasn't no big deal. It was like being in the army and you couldn't go nowhere. That's what it seemed like. Somebody waking you up, telling you when to eat, telling you when to go to sleep, all that. That's army stuff. But you just couldn't go nowhere other than go outside and do a little circle lap or whatever. That's all you could do. I didn't feel like I should give her anything because here's my thing. I went to work doing what I was doing in the plant, right? I put those car seats together. I was on that high low. She wasn't in there with me doing none of that stuff. She didn't have to work the hours that I had to work. She didn't come home and in pain like I did, like constantly needing my hands massaged, my whole body aching, but I'm still up doing everything else, helping out around the house, helping the kids. Like I'm doing X amount of things on top of my job. You wasn't in there with me. Why do you deserve the money? If my ex is a nurse, so realistically, she didn't even need that money. She already made more money than I did. It just looked like I made more money than her because I worked more than she did. So on paper, it looked like I made more money, but hourly, she really made more money. She just had the leisure to work 2 days a week while I work four or sometimes five. So nah, I didn't feel like she deserved that money. And I knew going through the divorce, she was already gonna get child support. So how greedy you think you about to get? You know? But ultimately, I did end up paying her. I just didn't pay her in one large lump sum like I said I wasn't. So when I got out of jail, a whole year and some change went by, and I ended up having to. She took me back to court because I wasn't paying her that money back. So finally, I ended up starting to make payments, which wasn't no big deal. Um, as long as she wasn't getting in one large lump sum, she was getting pennies on the dollar. My current wife, we knew each other from the past. And it just so happened when I first split up with my wife, she was already actively going through her divorce with her ex. So when all of that with all of that going on, somehow we ended up getting back in contact with each other through Instagram. She liked the picture of my son and my cousin, and when I saw it was her, I'm like, oh, look who it is. So I DM'd her, see how she been doing, and we started kind of catching up with each other about everything that's been transpired because it had been like a 4.5 year gap that we didn't speak to each other. So um, when we got back in contact, it was all catching up. But not only was we catching up, we was getting to know each other all over again too. So that was really dope because I seen that she did a lot of growing up, and so did I. Um, and she was telling me how she didn't really have nobody helping her through her process of going through a divorce. But she, what I'm saying, she wanted to be there for me. And we started off just rekindling the friendship, but that turned into more. And I knew she was the one because I can't think of nobody that would mess with a man while he's at his lowest and work with him while he worked through that low point. So I knew she was the one then.
What did you lose by going to jail, bro?
Time. Time with my kids, time with my wife, um, and just other than that, that's all I really lost, and that meant the world to me because that's my world, my wife, my kids. Um, yeah, that meant everything to me. Other than that, I didn't lose anything else. I wasn't in there thinking about nothing else other than the mistakes that I made along the way, and how my kids, how I'm missing out on them, and you know, wishing I could be there with my wife because you know, mentally she was going through it while I was in there. So, because she didn't know what was going to happen, didn't know what to expect, she was all over the place. So I was really concerned about her because she don't do well with stress. So that's all I was really thinking about. On season one, I believe I did talk about it. It was called "Get a Prenup." I think that was the name of the episode, and I was talking about how people need to stop going into these relationships thinking that they won't end and somebody won't be bitter. So a prenup is just for you to protect yourself. Nobody can get anybody can get mad and do what else they want to do, but what they really won't be able to do is come after what you worked hard for once it's all said and done. So yeah, I definitely spoke on that before, actually a few times. I remember making I probably made a TikTok video or two talking about it, just how important it is to protect yourself. That's all a prenup really is. Because if you was like, my thing is, nobody should try to take anything from you that you worked hard for on your own. That's how I look at it. Like, if they wasn't there with you, they don't deserve nothing.
Well, you know, the millions of women out there that's gonna hear this and they're gonna say, you shouldn't have got married if you didn't want to share your money, your wealth with somebody that helped you build it. Because your wife did help you build it by sitting at home with those kids while you were out working, right?
Uh, yes and no. See, if it was, here's the thing: people think because they're, or women, I'm gonna say women. Women believe because they're mothers. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them believe just because they're mothers, that's all they got to do is have that title. That's not just a title. That name should be followed by actions. So what I'm saying is, yeah, my ex had those kids. Cool. She wouldn't have nothing if I didn't put them in it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you can't be a mother without me, and I can't be a father without you. But it takes my seed to help that grow in your stomach. So what are we talking about? You need me. I can get anybody else pregnant. So with that being said, just off of you having the leisure to be able to sit at home, you should be actually a little more, you should show a little more gratitude. Not a lot of women can say, "Oh, I sat at home and only worked 2 days a week and was still able to maintain the household, along with whatever else the kids may have to go through. On top of that, I have a husband that helps. He gets off at work 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, may stay up, may take a nap, and still take kids to school." See, people don't put all of that in to when they have these conversations. So what I want to say to the fellas is this: sometimes we're better fathers than these women are mothers. It's just all about your level of. It's just all about how much you love what you do. I love being a father. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. So I was serious about it when I had kids. I can't say the same for who I had kids with. Some people have kids just to say they got kids. Oh, I'm a mother. So, what are you doing for your kids besides making sure they breathing?
All right. So earlier you said that your ex-wife tried to bring up the fact that it could have been some infidelity in the relationship. Were you cheating on your ex-wife?
Absolutely.